Our movie begins in the peaceful, picturesque town of Saucier, Mississippi, where life moves slow. Church bells ring often, and the cat knows everyone's business. Meet Mrs. Marva Munson, a strict, elderly, deeply religious widow who lives alone in a modest but well-kept house. She's the kind of lady who quotes scripture like it's punctuation and keeps her home guarded by the watchful eyes of her late husband's portrait and her mischievous cat, Pickles. She's old-fashioned, firm in her beliefs, and believes in doing the right thing, even if the world's gone a little sideways. One fine morning, there's a knock at the door. Enter Professor Goldthwaite Higginson Dorr, a man who looks like he walked straight out of a Mark Twain novel. He's all manners, charm, and highfalutin vocabulary. Dorr presents himself as a professor of classical music, interested in renting out the room Mrs. Munson has advertised. And what a character he is, draped in velvet, quoting poetry, and speaking with the flowery affectation of a true Southern gentleman. He claims he and his musical ensemble need the root cellar for rehearsals of Renaissance madrigals. How could a pious old lady say no? Mrs. Munson, ever the God-fearing host, agrees. But little does she know, Professor Dorr isn't forming a band, he's assembling a crew. You see, beneath all that syrupy politeness is a criminal mastermind. Well, sort of. His real plan? To tunnel from Mrs. Munson's root cellar straight into the underground vault of the Bandit Queen Riverboat Casino, which just so happens to float nearby. Now, let's meet the gang. First up, Lump Hudson. He's a massive, dim-witted ex-football player brought in to provide muscle. He's not the brightest bulb in the chandelier, but he follows orders and can haul dirt with the best of them. Then there's Garth Pancake, a self-proclaimed jack-of-all-trades who specializes in movie special effects and homemade explosives. He's high-energy, overconfident, and very prone to chaos, especially when his irritable bowel syndrome starts acting up. Next is Gawain McSam, their inside man, a janitor at the Bandit Queen with an attitude problem and a mouth that just won't quit. He's supposed to help from the casino side of things. And rounding out the crew is the General, a terrifyingly silent Vietnamese war veteran who runs a donut shop, garrots people without flinching, and smokes in secret to avoid Mrs. Munson's disapproval. Each man brings something vital to the table, or so they hope. To keep up appearances, the group pretends to be a musical ensemble, blasting classical CDs to muffle the sounds of their tunneling. Every night they dig and dig, filling trash bags with dirt and sneaking it out under the cover of darkness, dumping it off a bridge onto a garbage barge that passes below. It's tedious work, but they're making progress until, inevitably, things start to go sideways. First, Gawain gets fired from his janitor job at the casino for mouthing off to his boss, which temporarily cuts off their access to the vault. Then Garth, trying to show off the safety of his plastic explosives, blows off one of his own fingers, and Pickles the cat runs off with it, sparking total chaos in the house. They manage to hide all of this from Mrs. Munson, but the tension is starting to build. Eventually, with Gawain rehired, the team punches through the casino wall, makes off with the cash, and prepares to collapse the tunnel to cover their tracks. Garth sets the explosives, but they appear to be duds. Ever the expert, he climbs back into the tunnel to check the setup, only to accidentally reactivate the timer. With his IBS flaring and time ticking, Garth barely scrambles out before the blast goes off, launching him back into the cellar where he crashes onto the table holding all the money. Cue Mrs. Munson. She hears the ruckus, comes downstairs, and discovers the truth. These aren't musicians. They're crooks. Enraged but ever righteous, she gives Dorr an ultimatum: return the money and go to church, or she'll call the police. Dorr tries to reason with her, claiming that insurance will cover the loss and no one will suffer. He even promises to donate to Bob Jones University, a conservative Bible college she supports. But Mrs. Munson isn't swayed. Her mind is made up. Now the crew faces a dilemma. They don't want to give up the cash, but they also really don't want to kill an old lady. Still, murder seems like their only option, so they draw straws to decide who will do the deed. Gawain pulls the short. He sneaks into her room with a pistol, but just as he's about to go through with it, he has a vision of his abusive mother, and suddenly Mrs. Munson becomes that figure in his mind. He freezes, begins mumbling to himself, and wakes her. She scolds him, takes her pillow back, and sends him packing with a slap. Gawain returns to the group and refuses to do the job. Garth calls him a coward. They start bickering, and in the scuffle, Gawain accidentally shoots himself in the chest. Dead. They dump his body off the bridge onto the barge. Then Garth, schemer that he is, tries to steal the money and run off with his girlfriend, Mountain Girl. But Dor catches wind, sends the general after him, and, unsurprisingly, the general garrotes them both and dumps their bodies too. Now it's the general's turn to kill Mrs. Munson. He creeps up the stairs, cigarette in mouth, ready to finish the job. But just as he's about to strike, a cuckoo clock chimes and startles him. He swallows his cigarette, panics, trips over the cat, and tumbles down the stairs, breaking his neck in the fall. Another body, another barge. Lump, now genuinely torn, tells Dor he wants to do the right thing and return the money. Dor mocks him, calls him stupid, and hands him the revolver to do the job himself. Lump, ever the simple soul, turns the gun on Dor, but the chamber's empty. Curious, he looks down the barrel and pulls the trigger again. Boom. He shoots himself in the face and tumbles off the bridge. You guessed it, another barge. Now it's just Dor. He stands alone, money in hand, reflecting on fate. A raven lands on a nearby statue of death, and Dor, a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, recites The Raven. But fate has a dark sense of humor. The statue's head breaks loose, smacks him on the noggin, and knocks him over the railing. His cape catches on the bridge's ironwork, suspending him mid-air, until the fabric tears. And down he goes. Barred, for the final time. Back at the house, Mrs. Munson wakes up, oblivious to the body count that piled up overnight. She finds the money in the cellar and goes to the police to report it. But they dismiss her story as the ramblings of a lonely old. To humor her, they tell her to keep the money. So what does she do? She donates every penny to Bob Jones University, as you do. And in one final, darkly hilarious moment, Pickles the cat trots along the bridge and drops the last remaining evidence, Garth's severed finger, onto the garbage barge floating away into the distance. Thanks for sticking around for this epic recap. Until next time, remember, if your tenant says he's in a band, maybe check for dirt in the basement.